Welcome to Raptorisms over Crystalis episode 4. Where we last left off, I had just beaten the giant insect in the poison forest, and with that I got the ball of fire. Now I'm at level 5, and with the ball of fire I can finally head through Mount Saber because I can break down ice walls. Now we saw last time there were two entrances to Mount Saber. There's the entrance in the north and the entrance in the west, but we can't enter through the north just yet, so today we're going to be exploring the western part of Mount Saber. So let's head right in here. And the first thing you may notice is that this level has a really cool soundtrack. Now this game doesn't have that many standout tracks, but of all of them, I like this one the best. You'll hear this soundtrack during Mount Saber and also Mount Hydra, the other mountain you'll come across later in the game. The most common enemies you're going to see on the outside of Mount Saber are these zombies. And the zombies are slow, they'll walk right towards you, they don't throw anything, and that makes them great targets for the ball of fire. Because as they're walking towards you, you can unleash one ball of fire blast and it's going to cause multiple impacts. These guys are pretty good for leveling up from level 5 to level 6, but after that you're probably better off going elsewhere. Once we get past these zombies, we're going to head inside the caves, and there are a lot of caves here, and the unfortunate thing about these caves is that most of the enemies inside can only get hurt by the Sword of Wind. However, you do need to use the Sword of Fire to break down the ice walls inside the caves, so that means you either have to keep switching back and forth between the two swords, or you just have to leave the Sword of Fire on and ignore all the enemies inside. That's generally what I do. I just kind of run past everyone as quickly as I can. So let's enter our first cave right here and test out the Sword of Fire. Yep, you can't hurt these guys at all, so I'm just going to run past them, and I'm pretty sure an ice wall is coming up. Yep, right here. Let's break it down. It works just the same way as breaking down rock walls with the Sword of Wind. Alright, these guys also can't be hurt, so sometimes you're still going to want to use the Sword of Fire to push them away at least, so you can walk past them, but it's not going to cause them any damage. Alright, we just hit a dead end, but at least we got some warp boots out of it. Now, in these caves in the western part of Mount Saber, we have 3 objectives. First of all, we're going to try to find a shortcut back to the town of Leaf, and that's the first village we came across in the game. The second objective is to get the Tornado Bracelet. That's an item that's going to maximize the power of the Sword of Wind. And third of all, we're going to try to find Tornell, and if we do, he's going to teach us the power of the Teleport spell, which is going to allow us to use the magic in exchange for teleporting to any town we've already been to. Mount Saber is really our first maze-heavy area of the game, and when I was a kid I really didn't like it because it was kind of confusing for me. But considering all the games I've played since then, games like Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne and Dark Souls and games like that where the mazes are much more complicated, in retrospect, these mazes really aren't that bad. But the one thing about these mazes that's still really difficult compared to later games is that in these mazes you generally have very few clues as to telling you exactly where you are. Every single part of these mazes looks exactly the same. You're just generally in some kind of passageway, and there are very few details aside from that to clue you in as to whether you're in one part as opposed to another. Now, if you compare that to more modern games, you're going to see a lot more details in the environment, and that's going to make you feel like you're actually making progress, and it's going to give you a better sense of orientation. Some of the clues you can use to help you figure out exactly where you are in these mazes are, of course, entrances and exits. Also, in different parts of the mazes, you're going to face different enemies, and as they respawn, you can kind of figure out where you are, and you'll also see the remnants of the parts of the walls you've blown open, either with the Ball of Wind or the Ball of Fire. So let's keep working our way through this maze, and while we do that, let's get on to today's rant, which is going to be on the Dresden Files. The Dresden Files is an urban fantasy novel series, and I don't know that much about the different subgenres of fantasy. It's just my understanding that urban fantasy means you have a bunch of wizards and fairies and goblins and things running around the streets of Chicago instead of Middle-earth. This novel series was recommended to me by one of my readers about 8 or 9 years ago, and I quickly got into it. Now, I don't actually read novels. High school English classes made me hate that, so instead I listened to the audiobooks, and the audiobooks are fantastic. The narrator, James Marsters, does a fantastic job, and I can't say enough good things about his voice. It took me less than a year to catch up on all of the 14 audiobooks that were out at the time that I first got into the series, and book 15 came out shortly thereafter. But after that, there was a 6-year hiatus in between books 15 and 16, which just came out a few months ago in 2020. And now we're actually already at Tornell. I got the magic ring, which is a great item, and now he's telling me that I have to find the Tornado Bracelet before he teaches me the magic of teleport. I'm pretty sure this is the only time I've actually come across Tornell before getting the Tornado Bracelet, and that's really annoying because now I have to do this whole maze all over again. But on the bright side, I guess it gives me a little more time to talk about the Dresden Files. As I was saying, there was a long hiatus between 2014 and 2020, but we finally got 2 books back to back just a few months ago, and I've now finished listening to them. I was thinking about reviewing just these 2 books, but it's impossible to talk about books 16 and 17 in a series without getting into serious spoilers, so I thought I'd just take this opportunity to talk about the series generally and try to get some of you into it. The Dresden Files checks off a lot of things that I really look for in storytelling. First of all, it has a really great plot, and I'm not just talking about the overarching plot over 17 books, I'm also talking about how in each individual book, there are guaranteed to be really clever plot twists. The story also has some really great and memorable characters, my favorite one among them being the main character himself, Harry Dresden, the wizard for hire in Chicago. This guy is so interesting that no matter what he does, what characters you surround him with, and where he goes, the story is bound to be entertaining. And perhaps most importantly, the story has an amazing sense of humor to split up all those serious parts. If your sense of humor is anything like mine, you'll probably get a kick out of these books. And that applies to the audiobooks too. The sense of humor comes through surprisingly well in audio form. The basic premise of the Dresden Files is that Harry Dresden is a wizard who gets caught up in the grander schemes of the supernatural world and has to fight his way through them. He gets involved with a whole bunch of your typical fantasy kind of creatures, and, I'd list them all except they sound kind of lame without further explanation, so just take my word for it. The fairies, the vampires, the werewolves, and all these other creatures that have kind of been ruined by pop culture, they're actually cool this time. Zombies make their appearance too, getting back to Crystalis, and I just remembered what I have to do. You see that ice slide that I just slid down? What I actually have to do is jump up one of the shorter ones using the rabbit boots. So let me head back to the entrance to Mount Saber, and I'm pretty sure that the ice slide that I need to jump up is in that general area. And that would also explain why every single time I've previously played this game, I've already had the tornado bracelet when I got to Tornell. It's because it's one of the quickest things to get to in Mount Saber, at least if you know the secret that you need to jump your way up one of these ice slides. But I think I'm in the wrong cave once again. Let me just move a bit further, and I don't have much leeway here because I am poisoned right now. And yeah, this is the wrong cave. This is actually the pathway back to Leaf. So let me blow through here right now. Maybe I can stop by, but actually probably not. The wind is filled with sorrow. Return to Leaf soon. Sounds like a plan. Let me do just that. Leaf isn't far from here, and there's nothing dangerous along the way, so I should be able to get there safe and sound, even though I'm poisoned. I'm also starting to run low on life right now, so I may have to use Refresh, but first let's see how quickly I can get back to Leaf, and once I'm there, I can just hit up the inn. No time for any of these enemies, and to be perfectly honest, there is no point in fighting these even if I were healthy. They're just 1 or 2 experience points each, just $1 or $2 each. They're basically completely worthless at this point in the game. Okay, so now I'm safe and sound back in Leaf, and let me just use a little bit of Refresh because I am really low on HP, and let me blow the rest of my magic points on Telepathy. Raptor, I pray for your safety. Totally useless, don't rely on others so much, okay? I'm Asuna, I'm looking forward to seeing you, and Kensu says absolutely nothing. Once again, Telepathy is a complete and total failure. Let me just get to the inn. But nobody's here, so that sucks for me, I'm still poisoned. And to find out why, let's head into this little rabbit shed. Some evil people attacked and took everyone away, and that really sucks for me because I'm still poisoned, I can't rest at the inn, I can't buy an antidote, I can't really do anything. I'm running low on HP again, so let me just refresh one more time, and I guess there's really only one way out of this. I'm just gonna have to suck it up and use a disposable item, that being the warp boots. I believe this is the first time I'm using it in this playthrough, so let me show you how it works. I can travel to any town I've already been to, Leaf, Brinemere, or Oak. There's nobody in Leaf, which is unfortunate because that is the cheapest inn, so let me head to the next best one, Brinemere. And I guess this kind of works out because right after healing up at the inn, I can walk right back to the southwest entrance to Mount Saber. And to make sure this doesn't happen again, let me just stop by the goods shop and get an antidote. It's 45 bucks, it's pretty expensive, but it's probably worth it right now because there are a lot of poisonous enemies in these caves. Alright, I got my antidote, and now let me save up so I can head straight back down into the west entrance into Mount Saber. Once I'm in Mount Saber, I'm gonna look around for that ice slide that I need to jump up in order to get to the cave that has the tornado bracelet. Now the bracelet's gonna give you the level 3 charge, which is the most power you can get out of any given sword. However, unlike the balls, it doesn't have a useful effect outside of battle. The balls are gonna break down walls, they'll build bridges, things like that, but they don't have any effect that helps you make your way across the world. So why do you actually have to get it to move on? Well, it's just because Tornell said so. It's kind of a fabricated excuse here. Now, some of the bracelets you'll get later on in the game are actually kind of optional. You never actually have to use them, and you don't even have to find them, to be honest, but they're extremely useful in battle, so I recommend getting them anyway. Outside of boss battles, however, I don't recommend using them because they will drain your magic points. Alright, let's try this one slide over here. Let me jump my way up, and this one is definitely too long. Okay, so it's not this one. I am almost 100% certain it's the next one. So let me kill this one zombie first. Alright, now let me jump my way up here. And yes, it's definitely this one over here. Alright, so let me get into the cave over here, and once we get the tornado bracelet, we'll call it a day for now. Where we pick up next time, I'm going to go bring this back to Tornell, and he's going to teach me the spell of teleport. Okay, let me get into the cave here, and as we saw before, we have the same kind of enemies as before. You can't hurt them with a sword of fire, but I have a lot of ice walls to break down in this cave, so let me just suck it up and try to move on as quickly as possible. Okay, we have an opening here, and there we go. It shouldn't be that much farther from here, so as always, if you guys have any topics you want me to discuss, let me know and I'll do it in the next video maybe. But until you let me know, I'm just going to pick topics at random. I gotta talk about the election at some point, I want to do Star Wars, and I want to do a whole bunch of other things. So let me just break down this wall, and we should be getting to the tornado bracelet right after this. And finally, we have the tornado bracelet. Alright, that's enough for now. See you guys next time.